Hey guys, welcome to the Liberal Hive Mind, a channel solely focused on exposing the abundant hypocrisy of the left. Alright friends, so today we're going on a little bit of a field trip. We're going to the Twitter zoo to see an absolutely unhinged leftist lunatic in her natural habitat. Joking around a little bit obviously, but also not really. We got a Rachel Maddow clip to watch. You know, we haven't heard too much of Rachel Maddow lately. It seems like she's been keeping it on the low, so to speak. Or maybe she's just been struggling to make headlines. And of course, as we know, the only way to really make headlines and to draw attention to yourself as a leftist MSNBC nutcase is by saying the darndest things. Rachel Maddow does it again. That's how you know we're headed into election season. When Rachel Maddow starts to break, it probably means we're headed to election, and it probably means that Donald Trump is doing something right. Let me show you the latest kooky leftist conspiracy theory. Here's the modern state of journalism, otherwise known as urinalism. We've got some stuff to get into, so let's roll the tape. Alright folks, so we don't really need context for this clip. Just take a look.
The election means one of two things, if this is the way he's going to approach it. Either he loses the election and he goes to prison, or he wins the election, he doesn't go to prison, and is that for life, that he gets to be president? Will we keep having more elections, or no? If every election is a new opportunity for him to go to prison, do you think he allows us to have new elections? I mean, if those are the stakes, if winning the election is his plan to stay out of prison, what happens in that election if and when he does not win it? Does that kind of an election end with a graceful concession to a fair and square re-elected President Biden? I mean, if Trump and his supporters see the stakes as losing and going to prison or winning and being president, and probably president for life, how should we expect that he and the Republican Party and Republican officials in swing states are going to handle the conduct of that election that Trump may very well lose? And because we are prone to forget, we have to say out loud, I mean, that we would be remiss, we would be willfully naive to ask that question as if our politics exists in a vacuum, somewhere outside the rest of our news. As if the politics pages are totally different than the crime pages, right? As if we are not in a moment where far-right politics is coincident with far-right violence, with regular shows of force from paramilitary extreme right groups, and with acts of violence by people who are explicitly and admittedly motivated by far-right eliminationist political ideas.
This is what MSNBC viewers are absorbing and accepting as their reality. You know, I'm just gonna say it outright. Rachel Maddow is a bad person. Of course, she markets herself as this caring, compassionate leftist, but what you are seeing on the screen here, that is a horrible person. That is a person who is knowingly lying. It's the same kind of rhetoric that we saw during 2016. Donald Trump is going to turn himself into a fascist dictator. He's going to start a world war. He's going to declare martial law and take control of the government and use the military to overthrow the US government. You know, that's the kind of rhetoric that we were hearing. But that rhetoric is simply insane. I mean, it's crazy. And Rachel Maddow knows this. She's educated enough to understand that what she's saying makes literally no sense. I mean, the President of the United States hardly has any real executive power. There are so many checks and balances put in place, especially for Donald Trump, because there's the official checks and balances, and then there's the corrupt ones as well, working behind the scenes to stop him and sabotage his agenda. The idea that any president of the United States can just simply declare that there's no more elections, declare themselves king and remain president indefinitely, is such an insane statement, it's hard to even describe how crazy it really is. You know, if you were just having a conversation with someone, let's say at a bar or at a party, at a dinner party, let's say, and they started speaking like this, you would most likely think in the back of your head, oh, this is a crazy person. Like, this is a legitimately insane human being. Like, it's probably not even worth discussing or trying to argue. This person is clearly unwell. Well, apparently that person is the top-rated cable network host on NBC, leading one of the highest rated shows in cable news. That's basically the leftist Tucker Carlson and Sean Hannity. But of course, as we know, Rachel Maddow isn't a crazy person. Rachel Maddow doesn't actually believe what she's saying. Rachel Maddow is simply doing what she does. She's a DNC bought and paid for stooge, a shill, and she runs technically an opinion show, so she's not doing real journalism. She doesn't have to abide by journalistic ethics, even though she should, at least to a certain extent, and so she's just gonna say whatever she has to say to stoke as much fear as humanly possible. That is what Rachel Maddow does. In other words, she's a terrible person. She's incredibly divisive, she's aggressively dishonest, promoting bad faith, fear-mongering, divisive propaganda to scare people into voting for her preferred party. She then goes on to make this point of supposed far-right militias, which from my accounting don't even really exist, and purposely used big words, attempting to seem academic and intellectual in her description, painting this horrible picture of right-wing fascism around the corner and militia groups overthrowing the US government, obviously on the back of her January 6th narrative, again to stoke totally dishonest fear-mongering about MAGA Trump supporters. I mean, you know the reality. MAGA Trump supporters are generally boomers, at least for the most part, or more so boomers than, younger generations. It's just regular moms and dads for the most part. Small business owners, people who pay their taxes, go to work, don't have criminal records, just regular people. And she's painting a picture of those individuals as far-right extremists engaged in, quote, regular shows of force, which of course she can't back up, and claiming these people are explicitly motivated and admittedly motivated, meaning that they're admitting it. Again, I've never heard anyone admit this ideology, what she describes as eliminationist far-right ideology. In other words, what she's telling you is that the evil right-wingers, the evil Trump MAGA supporters, like Trump Granny with the Trump flag at the corner street, is trying to kill you. We're the crazy people though, right? We are the crazy people. They are the genius scientific minds dealing in facts, fact-based journalism, living in the real world, and we're just kooky conspiracy theories, terrible extremists, spreading misinformation to achieve some sort of fascist overtaking. Okay, interesting. Now, I don't really need to say it. I think it's blatantly obvious. I'm not just going to explain why this is crazy. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. What I want to focus on, however, is the irony. Because this sort of fascism that she's fear-mongering about, what she's trying to depict as this great extremist right-wing threat, is essentially exactly what we're seeing with the Democrat Party. When Donald Trump was president, Rachel Maddow's little fear-mongering shtick was that Donald Trump was going to use the DOJ to launch investigations against his political opponents to imprison them because he's such a threat to democracy.
Now that he's got the right attorney general in position to do it, we now know they really have been trying to gin up criminal prosecutions and criminal investigations into the president's perceived enemies, politically motivated persecution, right? Courtesy of Bill Barr. I'll roll in the FBI on you. That's how banana republics work, right?
The home of the 45th president of the United States has been raided by the FBI.
Mr. Trump is using the Justice Department to go after his perceived enemies. I feel worried about the prospect of the Justice Department being used as a tool of this president or any.
Of course, the irony. That's exactly what Joe Biden is doing right now. It's always projection, isn't it? Oh, those right-wingers and their terrible misinformation, says the people who literally deal in misinformation as a currency. Oh, those terrible extremists, says the people who have the most extreme policy platforms and who align themselves with extreme leftists, burning down neighborhoods and achieving political ends by means of force. In other words, terrorism. Oh, those terrible Republicans and their undemocratic ways. They're trying to jail their political opponents, says the people who are cheering on as President Joe Biden and his DOJ try to literally imprison their political opponent. I just wish people could see it, It's so incredibly frustrating because once you see it, once you put two and two together, you can never unsee it. It's so blatantly obvious right in your face. It's just a crazy thought to imagine that people are watching this stuff. People are watching those Rachel Maddow segments. They're watching what's going on at MSNBC, nodding their heads in agreement, going, yeah, Rachel Maddow's right. How is that possible? How do human beings like that even exist? It remains a fascinating mystery, and of course a frustrating one at that. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little field trip to the loony bin. If you did, make sure to leave a like and possibly subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.